red light.
We go ahead and get started. Nobody
All right, red light's on. Call
All
this
right.
meeting to order.
Yeah, absolutely.
That'll get it going.
All right, good morning. Let's call this Rankin County Board of Supervisors meeting on September 28, 2017 to order. We'll start this meeting with an invocation. Please, Mr. Slay.
Father, we want to start again thanking you for all the many ways that you have taken such good care of us and provided for us. Father, we come to you and acknowledge that we need your help today to have good wisdom and discernment as we make decisions that are in keeping with your will and they're in the best interest of our citizens. And Father, there's so much going on in the world around us. We're reminded, Lord, that we can trust and take solace in you and your goodness and your character, your love for us, Lord, that's been demonstrated time and time again. So we want to acknowledge that and thank you for it. Father, I pray that our first responders would be protected today. Thank you for their service, for all that they do, and the many sacrifices that they make and that of their families. In Christ's name.
Amen. Okay. All right, in the Planning Commission's agenda, second item on the agenda for the Planning Commission is consideration and approval of August 31st, 2017 minutes. Got a motion by Mr. Morrison, second by Mr. Gaines. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Any opposed with a like sign. Motion passes. Item 3, old business. Ms. Lawrence, can you help me walk me through this? Item A, I think, was text amendments to the zoning ordinance.
That's right. We had some proposed amendments to the zoning ordinance. There are 3 of them. Do y'all want me to go over those today? That hearing's scheduled for Monday.
So move.
Okay.
What
So
everybody need to do.
Oh, that's the metal building deal?
Yeah, we're
Second.
Embarrassing, isn't it?
Well, y'all aren't voting. It's just a review of what's
she's asking, do you want her to go into detail to explain
to
or just
explain
discuss
any
it
of
on
them. Are
the...
y'all good with all of them?
I think we're good for October 2nd meeting. Anybody wants her to go over it? Steve?
Yeah, I'm good.
Jay? Jerry?
You seen, you got it, Jay?
Yeah,
Okay.
Good. Bob?
the metal building, that we're adding the metal building because there's,
To the
Yeah.
definition?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so item 3 will be closed. We'll move on. You don't need any kind of action on that, Slade, do we? Just go on to the next one. All right, item 4, new considerations. Ms.
All
Lawrence?
right. The first item under new considerations is a rezoning request by Holly Ridge Properties, LLC. It's on the corner of Stump Ridge and Holly Bush Road. This is on the northeast corner of Holly Bush and Stump Ridge. It's a 63.38 acre parcel. It's currently zoned A1. Conrad Gilmore of Holly Ridge Properties is seeking to change that from A1 to RE1. That's an aerial view of the property. He's proposing to subdivide the property into 13 lots. 9 of the lots will front on Stump Ridge Road and 4 will front on Holly Bush. He has some restrictive covenants that have been drawn up. They state each home must have a minimum heated and cooled square footage of 2,200 and no single lot can be subdivided into 2 or more lots. This is a view from the corner of Holly Bush and Stump Ridge. These are views of that property. And this is looking down Holly Bush. This is Stump Ridge. That's it.
I'll make a motion we approve it.
We're setting a public hearing, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Second.
Well,
Steve.
set it.
Motion by Mr. Gaines, set a public hearing.
Second.
And motion, second by Mr. Morrison. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed with a like sign. Item A passes for a public hearing set. Item B, Ms. Lawrence.
This is for a rezoning request by Stephen Cook on Highway 43 North. This property is located on the east side of Highway 43 at the intersection of Lake Road. It's a 35.63 acre parcel. It's currently zoned A2. He's requesting to rezone to RE1. That's an aerial view of that property. He's proposing to subdivide the property into 5 7-acre lots. They'll all front on the public road. They do have restrictive covenants that state there can be no further subdividing, and each house shall have a minimum of 2,000 square feet of heated and cooled floor space with at least a 2-car garage. These are views of that property, and these are surrounding.
Renee, what's the smallest minimum width of any of those lots?
Well, are you
Can you
talking
see
about
it?
the acreage?
No, footage out to the highway.
Oh, I'm not sure on
I
that.
thought it had it on that, I just couldn't see it.
I think there's a plat, just a second.
Was it on that diagram you just threw up, Ms.
Well, you
Ryan?
can't read that, it's.
I was glad to hear you can't read it. I couldn't read it. I started to feel bad. That, woo!
Well, that
His
was-
eyes are going quick
Me
over
too.
here.
I didn't comment.
Who?
I couldn't even tell what you were talking about.
Was there writing up there?
That's like the phone books. I got to stay in the
This is maximum capacity right here for me.
Yeah, yeah.
Did you get that too?
I think he said, yeah, 300.
Would
Okay.
you like to see this? But yeah,
Now, there's nothing less than 300, is that
on the footage along the road,
along the highway?
it doesn't appear that there is.
Well, that's at least 200,
The
right?
top
Right.
one's
That's what I was
386.
just making sure of.
This will be Hollywood.
The measurement shown on the
260,
top.
240,
You're good.
248, 250.
This is where we're coming right here.
Yeah, but I
On the
think
back.
they're gonna be the same.
All the way through. Almost 300.
All right.
All right. Entertain a motion to set the public hearing.
Yeah, I'll make a motion.
All right, motion by Mr. Gaines to set the public
Second.
hearing. Second by Mr. Morrison. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Any opposed with a like sign. Item B passes. Item C, Ms. Lawrence.
Is a conditional use permit for Sandra Thurman at 212 Deer Ridge Road. This property is located on the west side of Deer Ridge. It's a 1-acre parcel. It's zoned RE1. Ms. Thurman is seeking the conditional use permit to replace her existing home with a manufactured home. That's an aerial view of the property. Her existing home is in an unlivable condition. The foundation on the home has collapsed, the roof and floors have fallen in, and the gas is off due to the house shifting and the copper line breaking. She has no gas heat or water, only one electrical outlet works. She's 71 years old, and she's applying for the conditional use permit under the hardship emergency housing section of the RE1 district. This is a view of her property.
Make a motion, set the hearing.
All right, got a motion by Mr. Morris, set the public hearing.
Second.
Second by Mr. Morrison. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed with a like sign. Item C passes. Item D, Ms. Lawrence.
Is a rezoning request for Greenfield Station LLC on Greenfield Station Parkway and Greenfield Circle. There's 9 acres on the east side of Greenfield Circle, and then 25 acres in the actual subdivision. You can see on the zoning map, the part in brown, those are zoned MHP currently, and they're asking to rezone that to R1D to be consistent with the zoning of the Greenfield Station subdivision and also adjoining property to the north.
Make a motion, set the hearing.
I got a motion by Mr. Morris, set the public hearing. Second by Mr. Morrison. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed with a like sign. Item D passes. Item E.
Okay,
Ms. Lawrence.
is a conditional use permit for Neely Trucking and Excavating on West Petros Road. This property is located on the west side of West Petros. It's a
Okay,
10
Wait a
acre.
minute, okay, I want to follow this. Where, all right, so West Petros, they're gonna come out of West Petros?
No, sir, they're going to go through the existing mine that's on
Okay.
South Pearson.
Okay.
They just want to expand the existing mine. It's the Perrette Pit. It's a
Right.
38-acre mine. They're going to add the 10-acre parcel off West Petros. There'll be no access to the mine from West Petros. Trucks will enter through the existing pit on South Pearson. And they did provide us with a copy of the application to amend the existing permit and SWIP that was filed with DEQ.
Yeah. I thought I remember reading it was not coming out on West Petros, but.
They're
wanna
not. They're
make sure, right.
Everything's going to come in and
Flip
out
that picture back.
Which?
Go back one picture,
this way.
yeah.
It's not on that side of the road, is it?
That's Jonathan's
Oh,
stuff.
that's on the opposite side.
Yeah,
These
That's
are
surrounding properties.
okay.
That's surrounding property. It's actually gonna be on the, west side of that fence, opposite side of that fence.
Well, they're not
on the
gonna have to
road.
cross West
That's
Petros
the
at
whole
all.
pit.
Huh?
They're
these
not
are
gonna have to cross
This
West
is where
Petros
it's
at
going.
all.
No.
Because that was always the headache.
Right.
These are pictures of where it is.
Did they buy the land or did they just mine it?
Yeah, they've owned it for a couple of years now. I thought they couldn't get any more dirt out of that spot over there, but apparently they found it already. They have been mined it.
Well, actually, I think there's a hill there that, another hill there right across the fence from that.
Well, I don't have a problem with that. Just kind of.
Oh, they had the dirt because they were going to put it on East Metro there. But the gentleman who was in the middle had some problems ongoing, so that got put on hold. So
Okay.
I'm
I'll make a
assuming
motion
that's
to
not the
set the
same
public
person.
hearing.
And a motion, Mr. Morrison, to set the public hearing, second by Mr. Morrow. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed with the like sign. All right, item 5, site plan and architectural review.
We don't have
No
any
business
today.
there.
Nope.
Item 6, basically saying our next meeting will be held Thursday, November 2nd, 2017. Any further business from the planning commission side of that? All right, got a motion to adjourn on item 7.
So moved.
A motion by Mr. Bishop, second by Mr. Morrison. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed with the like sign. All right, we'll close out the planning commission meeting and we'll open up the Rankin County Board of Supervisors meeting under public comments. I know we had the sheriff wanted to speak, but we'll go with Mr. Strickland, Chris Strickland. You present? Great.
I got something I want to
Add
add
to
to
it.
it.
Okay. Come on up, Mr. Strickland. Hey, good morning. If you would, just introduce yourself to the board and just tell us who you are.
My name is Chris Strickland. I work for MPE, which is Mississippi Public Entity, your workers' comp carrier.
Sure.
I have a privilege of going all over the state, but I live here in Rankin County. I absolutely love it. Sheriff does a good job. I live in Castlewood subdivision, so
Great.
Of course.
don't want to make him mad. But I actually moved from another unnamed county. I always said, I'm going to go where everything's safe. But anyway, I've had an opportunity to meet with Flanagan here. I've reviewed every workers' comp claim that you guys have had since 2015 all the way to present. And each one of them have similarities. All right, the time to train for training is not when things go wrong, it's beforehand. You guys are doing a phenomenal job this year on workers' comp claims. They're really, really low. I just looked at them a minute ago. That's why I was looking at my phone. You guys have only had 10 claims all year so far, which is really, really good. And some things can be corrected or prevented, rather. Some things can't be. But what I want to do is to be able to look and where I see or I feel that training needs are needed, I want to be able to reach out to those departments and meet with the department heads and see what their needs are. And then what I want to do is see what their needs are, see what your claims are, which I already know, and take the two to put them together, and I handwrite all of our training. So why that's important is what happens in, let's just use Harrison County, is not going to be the same thing that happens here. Road and bridge. If a storm comes through here, what do we have a lot of? Trees. Harrison County may not have as many trees, but we have to break out chainsaws around here to clear roads immediately or everything gets gridlocked. All right? So I would have to ask the question, when was the last time training was done on how to operate a chainsaw? So that's what I want to bring to the table. I want to be able to meet with the department heads, see what their concerns, their needs are, take that with the information that I have workers' comp claims, and then I want to handwrite specifically for Rankin County, for that department, a training, and then I want to come teach it to them. You guys already, it's a free service to you guys. You already pay for your workers' comp insurance. You have to have it. So what I want to do is get you guys' blessing, if you will, to be able to implement this, because I can go to the department heads all day long and make recommendations, but if I don't have your blessing, then it falls on deaf ears. And like I said at the beginning, time to train for workers' comp is not to have the knee-jerk reaction after the fact. It's to train on the front end to try to prevent it. One of the most expensive workers' comp claims that I ever had was a $1 million frozen fry, where a lady slipped on a French fry. $1 million later, she is totally disabled and all over a fry, in which, honestly, that particular one could have been prevented. I won't go into details, but what I'm saying is I want to help prevent workers' comp claims on the front end, not on the back end when it costs you, $1 million.
Right.
Not saying that it would, but just using that as an example. But I want to get your blessing to do so.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Strickland. Any comments from the board? Jay, Steve, Jerry?
I like
Bob?
that part where it's free.
Well, it is. You got to utilize it.
Yeah, and
I wouldn't really say it's free either.
we're paying for it. That's all.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, we leave it on the table if we don't do it. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think you've got that blessing from this board. If anybody wants to object to anything like that, Mr. Strickland, go on with that. So thank you for that. Thank you for your update.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. All right.
Do we need something formal, some sort of board order?
No,
or what?
the reason I come to it, and I made mention of, a lot of times I will go to the department heads and make the suggestion, and
They don't have time.
yeah, they don't make it a priority. And I have found that if the board says, yes, this is what we want to do, would you come back in 60 days and give us an update on where you are on the training? Then it kind of puts a priority with the department heads and says, okay, well, if I don't do this, then he's going to go back to the board and tell the board we've not done any training of any type. That's why I come to you to get your blessing.
Sure.
I'm good, thank you.
All right. Also, under public comments, Sheriff, do you want to speak for just a second?
Yes, if you don't mind, just a quick thing. You notice there's a room full of people here and
Right.
all this, but if y'all done a tax increase or something bad, you have a packed room, people mad at you. But let me tell you something. I thought about it last night, and we had a drown last night.
You hang on a minute, just a minute before you start that. I want to compliment you before you ever even start. That was what I want to talk about. And I wish it was a room full of people here. We had an unfortunate situation, but I'm going to let you take over. But I want to say, I was there from beginning to end. It couldn't have been handled more professionally. Some of the finest equipment, some of the finest people, the way they handled it professionally. Our EOC, I couldn't say there was one thing not done top of the line. The way the sheriff's department handled things, where the EOC people did, it was a large crowd of people there, a lot of unnecessary people there, but a large crowd. The equipment that we had, if we talk about why do they have this and why they have that, they may not use it very often, but as I saw last night, the one time they might need that piece of equipment gave a family a peace of mind, gave the community a peace of mind that they were being well taken care of. The comment that I've heard has been made about why they need these four-wheel drives. Well, last night was clear as day why they need them. One thing, if it had been wetter than it was, they wouldn't have been able to get in there. I mean, that's just simple fact. I couldn't find anything or heard anybody make any comment, Sheriff, and with our EOC, Brent was there doing his thing, Brian was there, the EOC. I mean, if you stood back and you were just somebody on the outside, you couldn't help but go, they got it going on, and that we feel like it's all under control. We just need to stand back and let them have it. And the way you all handled it, and I just hate there's not a room full of people to hear this, because I think that's what is, people don't realize till you're in a situation like this just how efficient that we are here in Rankin County. And it was the first responders, our fire departments that were there, everybody, wasn't a person there that didn't handle things professionally and like they had been well trained to be there. And I just want to commend you before you say what you want to say, but I just want you to know, I knew probably 2/3 of people there, and if there was any issue, I would have heard it, and so it was nothing but praise. So I just want you to know that.
And that's the whole reason I want to come here and tell y'all today that I thought about last night and this morning on the way in, how lucky we are. Rankin County, I've been in law enforcement for over 25 years now, and there was a time back if we had a drowning like this that we couldn't have been able to, we just had to sit there and wait for the body to come back up on its own and everything. Because of y'all, because y'all fund us and the EOC with the equipment we need. Y'all, we had a boat down there, we had a dive trailer down there, had a light plant down there, and the the child drowned a little bit after 8. We had his body on the shore before 11 o'clock. And it's because of the sonar that y'all bought for the boat down there, the dive boat, the training for the divers and everything. I just want to thank y'all, because y'all really take public safety seriously. Y'all give us more than what we need to do our job. I just want to thank each one of you for funding public safety the way that you do.
It made me have a second.
That boy's life,
Yeah.
but now the family had peace of mind. You know,
Yeah.
Because I tell you, we were going to stay out there till we found the body, and they were going to stay out there. And I'm just telling you, we couldn't have done it years faster and efficiently, like Jerry's talking about, without the equipment that y'all
Right.
purchased for us.
Oh, it was as top notch as you'd ever want to see, and you know, it made me have second thoughts on sometimes when we look at things about certain trainings that we go, oh, my God, why do they have to have that? You know, you're standing there, and fortunately, I mean, you feel for this family, but when you see that the personnel around there that obviously are trained, and their mind clicks in, and it's complete. There's no chaos. Everything was smooth. Everybody knew what they needed to do. It makes me have second thoughts on when we talk about why are we sending them for this training or that training. You know, I never know when that. I'm not one to be able to come in, just like I can't come into your department. You can't come into my shop and go, why do you need that? Why do you need this? You know, that's not my expertise. So if they think they need it, I'm sorry, I just have to believe in what they need, because just like some of them said last night, that one time you need something, Rankin County's got it. May not use it very often, but they've talked about being on other scenes, the way things, the equipment that we have. And so I just wanted to add that for the board to hear, as well as, and what the sheriff and the whole picture was, it's sad and unfortunate. I can still hear and see things that I can only imagine y'all see, obviously more frequent than I do. But seeing that family, them knowing what was going on and knowing what the outcome was going to be before they actually saw the outcome was hard. But yet they felt like they were being in good hands, and that was, I guess, a peace of mind for me to see them in a calming mode under the situation that is just something we hope none of us ever have to face. You know, the young man was 16 years old.
Sad.
Yeah.
But I just want to let y'all know that you thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you.
All right, anything else under public comments? All right. Item 5, consent agenda.
So moved.
Got a motion by Mr. Morrow, second by Mr. Bishop. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, the like sign. Item 5 passes. Item 6, Mr. Slay.
It's all right.
Go into-
I'm gonna sit right here.
Sure.
So Ms. Laura can promote her expertise. Help me look at these things. We're going,
So we're under item A for
Yeah.
concession services
yes,
bids.
we're going to go ahead and open our RFP, our responses to our RFP on our concession services at the multipurpose pavilion. Okay, the first response is from T&J Concessions. They are out of Morton. We've got the requisite number of copies of the actual response. I think we asked for 6 copies of the response. We'll have to go through this. They are offering a gross sales commission of 16% and a monthly rental amount of $100.
That stepped right out there.
16% is
$100.
pretty good.
Yep.
By the way, in our RFP, the way we structured it, we left it open as to the amount of rent that they could propose, just to, whatever they wanted to propose for a monthly rental amount. Thought process behind that was, if they don't have any sales in a given month, we're still covering some of the expenses of the operation, the utilities and whatever. So that monthly rental amount was a component part of the offering. The second part of the offering is the gross sales remitted to the county. And we set a minimum, a floor of 12.5%. In other words, don't
don't propose if you're not gonna pay 12.5%. So when I mentioned the 16%, that's how that was structured. All right, Backyard Burger has proposed. They are out of Ridgeland, under the franchise operation Resolute, RESOLUTE Burgers LLC. Rick Thornburg is the chief operating officer of that entity. They are offering 25% of net sales paid weekly. So we need to look at this proposal because we asked for a percentage on the basis of gross. And there's a reason why we did that, so we need to look at that. It appears that they are looking for, give me a second here. Yeah, that's all that I can see on the initial offer sheet. I'll have to dig in and see what else they are proposing.
Are y'all gonna keep up with this and kind of have it broke down, we'll be able to see them?
Yes, sir,
Yeah.
we hope y'all will take these under advisement and allow us to go through
Right.
everything.
I'd
And
like
then
to
come
see
back
it, yeah.
and suggest to you. I need Mike doing this. He's more of an expert on this now. All right. The next response is from an entity called Your Personal Chef Catering. Michael Moore is the name.
Where's from?
They are Pear Orchard Road, Ridgeland.
Looks like their income tax return.
Send it all, don't you?
Yeah.
He's done a good job of being cryptic and secretive about what he's proposing. Okay, here we go. He's offering a $100 a month rental and a 13% gross sales commission.
Dig in there and find it, dude.
I found it.
Okay.
The fourth and final response is from R&J Concessions. This is the Nashes. Okay, they're offering, appears to be a monthly rental amount of $15 and a gross sales percentage of 17% with a minimum of $100 for each event that where concession services are scheduled at the pavilion. Okay.
Does any of this list anything about equipment or anything?
Yes, sir.
When we get into
When we
it.
get into the meat of the details,
Okay.
I
All right,
suspect
that's all
that
right. I
there's
just wanted to
going
make
to be a
sure.
good bit of discussion on that.
Well, the way we solicited, they would provide all the equipment they
They're
needed.
combining a packet there.
Yeah, actually,
They do
count.
too,
Sure.
they
Okay.
rubber band them together.
So that is all, those were the four responses that we got.
Make a motion, take them under advisement.
Second.
All right, so we got a motion by Mr. Morrow, taken under advisement, second by Mr. Gaines. Any further discussion?
I just want to comment, we had a local Rankin County company, came in last minute, they didn't realize we were taking them, so I imagine there'll be somebody interested going forward. So I'm not sure however this all works out in terms of how long we want to keep somebody as far as term goes. But it's unfortunate that they weren't aware of it, but they'll probably be interested in the future.
How do we publicize?
It was advertised
Yeah,
3
they
times.
just didn't
Yeah.
look in the
Chuck,
paper for it.
Chuck wrote an article about it, that we were
Yeah, I
soliciting
remember that. Yeah.
RFPs and our responses, and we put a notice in the newspaper. Did we put it on the website? Did we have something on the website? We may not have. I just don't
Publication
remember.
ran 3 times.
Yeah, we ran it in the paper 3 times.
They should have seen it, I would hope, thought, but anyway.
It was just a I guess unfortunate situation, put it that way. Who knows, they even been the best price, so.
Sure.
But I'm sure in the future, they'll probably keep their eye open now that they know we're doing this, so.
Quick reminder, this is a solicitation for services, and so there is a good bit of flexibility on our part as we consider these, plenty of maneuverability. The structure of the arrangement can be fairly creative in that respect. I am curious to know what sort of initial investment is going to be required for any of these who are seeking to propose. My assumption would be that our present vendor would not have nearly as much upfront investment to change things around, because they've been in there for a long time and have a system in place. So I'll be really curious to see what is being either asked of us or being suggested to us in the nature of an upfront initial investment. So we'll look through these and sort of give you guys a game plan going forward.
Did we tell them that there was qualifying events that they had to be at or didn't have to be at, or does they have to be, when we're open, they have to be there?
We gave them a listing of every scheduled event that we have for the next year, all the way through the end of 18. That was a part of the package.
Okay.
And the structure of the proposal, Jay, said that we will require that the successful vendor be available and serve concessions at each scheduled event that was listed. Now, and then there was a throwaway comment in there that there may be others that aren't scheduled that you'll have the opportunity to do that with, but we weren't forcing that issue because we don't have it scheduled.
Does it also list, well, I mean, in there, they list the type of things they would,
Yes,
Menu.
we asked them
Available?
for a capitulation
Menu,
of their
have a
menu
menu.
offerings. We also had in the proposal that we'd be interested in knowing about healthy options that are available. So we've heard that from some of the users of the facility out
Right.
there. So it was pretty broad. I
Okay.
think I've heard one comment that it appeared to be over lawyered.
well, that wouldn't surprise me. But,
I think it's a motion on the table. Let's
We do, we're just under discussion.
All right.
Anybody, any further discussion?
That was it.
All right, so we got a motion and a second. No further discussion. All in favor say aye. Take them under advisement. Any opposed with a like sign? That motion passes. Item B.
Yeah, on the next item, that may need some help. My understanding, and Ms. Laura, please jump in here and help as well. My understanding is the town of Puckett has got an access issue at the city park, or some repair work that needs to be done down at the city park. We stuck it on here just so we could get it in front of you guys and ask if anybody has any.
Let's clarify that just a bit. I don't think it's an access issue. It's just there's 2 big trees that are dead.
Okay.
They're close to the parking area that they don't have the capabilities of getting, and they're asking us to do this, to get the trees. I've asked Mike to look down there and see if he can get them. So he'll have to address, he said, I think we can assist them. So that's the reason the motion is there. They don't have the abilities to get the trees themselves, but they're right there.
To get
down
them
the parking
down?
lot. Yeah, to get them down and get them out.
what if we just get them down?
Right, we got all the dump trucks and stuff too, which they don't have any. We do everything for them down there.
Right.
Road, drainage, everything.
Well, you got it, everything, that kind of takes care of it all.
Yeah,
Sum it
so,
up.
so here's the
We've got
issue. It's,
negotiations coming up with.
it's off county right away. It's on city property, and so there's no issue there from a legality standpoint, but there's not a responsibility, a direct
Are they
responsibility.
large, big old old oaks or something?
Do we want to go ahead and take them in, take their buildings too? We want to do their fire station
No,
before.
because
so-
they're getting ready to do a community center down there where in the old fire department they got a $400,000 grant. Mayor wrote it, they got it, full dollar for dollar, but the problem is, it's one of those things that can be used for nothing but a senior citizen deal, which I'm not gonna say on come there. So they're growing, they actually got their second, we were there actually for a plotted subdivision meeting. We didn't realize, we were there,
Yep.
and we didn't realize that was gonna be part of the
Yeah.
agenda.
All right.
So
Yeah.
we kinda helped, this is the second one that's being presented to
right.
them.
Oh, wow.
1,800 square foot minimums,
Heck yeah.
on the houses.
It
So
was fun to sit there and
1,800.
watch the wide-eyed expressions of
We're gonna
folks
have
that
a
had to
neighborhood?
deal with platted subdivisions.
So
Welcome to our
moving.
pain.
It's moving. I'll make the motion if we entertain this, if we need to.
Yes, sir, please.
Do we even have to?
All right, so we got a motion by Mr. Morrow,
Second.
second by Mr. Morrison. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, the like sign. Item B passes. Item 7, Ms. Oster.
First item I have is authority to amend the FY17 budget as of September 30th to reflect the actual receipts and expenditures of the year.
Does that include if we want to spend something today?
No, it does not. Well, we do have a docket on here, so the y'all just approved.
Okay. All right. So move.
All right, motion by Mr. Bishop, second by Mr. Gaines. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, the like sign. Item A passes. Item B.
Authority to issue a check to the Rankin County Chancery Court in the amount of $2,905 for checks that were deposited by the county in error.
How about Jessica jump up and left?
So
So
move.
moved.
All right. Got a motion by Mr. Bishop, second by Mr. Morrow. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, the like sign. Item B passes. Item C.
The next item is authority to transfer from General County Fund to the Blue Cross Blue Shield Fund an amount sufficient to cover September claims incurred but not paid. I'm not sure, it could be around $300,000, but we will put the money back because we're on accrual basis on our accounting. What gets paid in October, the auditors pull back in to our expenses. Well, if I only have $200,000 out there in the account and we have $500,000 in claims, we're written up for it as not having sufficient funds. So I'm going to borrow the money from general, whatever I feel is an amount to sufficiently cover it, and then once we meet payroll in October, that money will go back into general fund.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion by Mr. Morrow, second by Mr. Bishop. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, the like sign. Item D.
Just review of our agendas for the upcoming meeting on Monday.
Comments? Questions?
I'm good.
Jerry? Good.
That was good.
Steve? Good. Jay?
Hadn't looked at it, but I'm good.
All right, any additional business? Item 8.
Yeah, I got one thing, I think, just to throw out there. Craig, you're familiar with it, and Mike, you can jump in anytime. In situations where we're given a permit, logging permit, and they're given a route to haul, the way it seems like it's working is that this all is fine, but there's nothing to back it up as far as, I mean, if we don't have something that the sheriff can go down or somebody can go down and they have a, if they deviate from it, it's a $500 fine, or a warning the first time, the $500 fine, and a continual 500, something, because otherwise, there's no need in even having a permit, because we
I
had a
wish
situation.
the sheriff could be in here.
Huh?
I wish the sheriff could be here while you
Yeah,
voicing that.
yeah.
But is that not the same thing we did for the overlay district?
It is.
Well, it is, but differently. I mean,
I thought you were against it.
I am for that.
Oh.
Yeah, this is a little different situation. It is a little different situation.
Basically, you want us to have some teeth in our ordinance, or come up with an ordinance. We say, this is your
No,
path,
I'm asking-
and
I'm
if they vary
asking-
off
And if you
of
vary
it.
off of it, you get in trouble. Then
No,
you're
I'm
responsible for your
asking you,
damage.
why, if why there's not something as, I mean, I'd like the sheriff to answer that. If they got a haul route, why do they even have a haul route? Or why do they even need a permit? This particular guy didn't even have a permit for some time, then he got one, and had to almost like throw the gloves down and let's settle this right here in the road yesterday because he didn't have a, he said, I don't have to do this.
Well, the day's coming, we probably gonna have to put weight limits on all our roads.
We can't, I don't know how
We
you
don't
do
mean
that.
that to be weighing trucks then.
Can I just sort of give a little bit of
Yeah.
overview? This, and it's somewhat on behalf of the sheriff a
Right.
little bit, feels a little funny, but I want to give voice to the position that the sheriff's department finds themselves in as it relates to what we're trying to enforce here, because what this
And
is
I actually
about.
talked to the deputy that, just ironically, he was at the scene last night, and I actually talked to him, Mike, about the thing. And naturally, it was conflicting stories, but he was under the impression that the guy is going to have to, has agreed to stay on his route. But anyway, go ahead.
Yes, sir. So it's an issue of enforcement and what it is that they're being asked to enforce. So we do have an ordinance in place now. Y'all did it recently, and it relates only, though, to the area that's the Reservoir Community District. And so there is an official ordinance, an action by this board establishing an ordinance, which is in the nature of a local law. And with that and the penalty provisions that are within it, the sheriff has something to point to in order to enforce the provisions of it. He can say there is an ordinance that is in place, and I am responsible for enforcing that, and I will send my deputies to enforce that, and there are penalty provisions within it that sets up a fine and potential jail time. So it looks like and acts like a law, which is what the sheriff is looking for to be able to enforce. We don't have an ordinance that applies outside of the RCD. We have a policy that is set up through the road department that requires a permit for loggers outside the RCD. Requires a permit, and he issues the permit and gives a haul route, and there's some other provisions within it as well. But that is simply a policy with a permit. There's not an ordinance. There's no statement on the policy or adopted by this board, by the way, officially as an ordinance that says, here is the jail time for violation and here is the fine for violations. And so the sheriff has no force of law that he can go and enforce. What we're asking him to do is to enforce the policy that we have that the road department has in place through its permitting.
Okay.
So he's in a no man's land.
It's simply, I mean, each case is, in most cases, and I think, Mike, you'll agree, you see the guy and say, hey, man, y'all, you got to be doing this, and they say, okay, I won't do it again, I'm sorry, and they usually get on, do the right thing. But
They
that
usually do.
one of these two, one or two out of the case that, Sheriff, I'm glad you're back in here.
You might as well go back out.
Your ears were burning, you came on back
Yeah.
in. No, I was just talking about situations where we give these, they get a permit, logging permit, and they're got a haul route. The problem is, the roads sometimes they choose are truly dangerous for them to use them. And I use Ainsworth as an example. They had Laughlin to run on, but they're down here on Ainsworth, and the trailer truck can't even make the curve down there without the back end of the trailer running off in the left lane ditch. And but in most cases, they're good about doing something.
Let me walk
Yeah.
real quick back through what the sheriff didn't hear me say.
Right.
Sheriff, I was trying to make sure they understood what position we put you in, how we do things. So we adopted an ordinance not too long ago that only applies to the RCD. It's not countywide, it just applies to the Reservoir Community District. And it sets up a fine, and it sets up jail time, and it's got the force of law behind it where your guys can actually go enforce something. Outside of the RCD, though, we don't have an ordinance that addresses specific issues related to hauling.
That's what they call about, telling them to call you, and always have them write that first ticket,
Yep.
right, we do it the right way.
And this is where the sheriff's in a box, because we would be asking him without any real direction. In our policy, we don't say who gets to enforce it. We assume that the road manager is going to draw it up and make sure that it complies with what he's looking out for, which is, are you tearing my roads up? That's what Mike's looking out for. But there's nothing in our policy that says this is who's going to enforce this thing. So here's what I would suggest that we at least consider. I like where we are with the RCD because I think that's probably a self-fulfilling prophecy. Once we get Mr. May's development done, we probably are not going to have a whole lot more problems out of that kind of thing. The only problems we really see in the RCD are where we have undeveloped lots that are already platted. And so we kind of know where those are now. So, Bob, I think you got those.
Yes.
So I mean, we can actually go to a map and look and see what kind of issues we're going to be dealing with there. I don't know that we want to mess with that.
I try.
I think we're fine there, and it seems to work there. What I would suggest that we may look at, and I want to work with Paul, sheriff's lawyer, and make sure that they're comfortable that we give them something they can work with. And let's adopt an ordinance that sets the hall policy that Mike's operating with and lays out in it provisions that provide for some sort of enforcement, some sort of penalty that goes with it, a fine, and the potential for jail time so that there's some teeth in it. And then the sheriff's got something that he can actually go enforce and write a ticket on and end up in justice court dealing with if we have to.
Well, my thing is, most of the time you just warn them. But if you give a warning and they keep you doing it, then there's something.
Yeah.
And then maybe say after I don't know how many times, or whenever, at what point we're going to pull your permit and you're not going to haul at all till you get this settled.
But you remember, that was my argument with the overlay district, and you said that won't work on a case-by-case basis. You said it had to be set every single time, and you had to enforce it that whole way.
You don't have to do it like that.
We wasted 45 minutes of my life arguing about that same thing.
No,
and
this
you were
is different. This is a rural area thing. Yours was, and I do agree with some. I do agree maybe in your situation, but that's not the same thing to apply out here. It's really not. I mean, it's not, because you're not looking at the guy building a house down the road that's got 25 trucks hauling dirt.
We were looking at it
No,
on a case-by-case
no.
basis.
We're still wasting time.
I agree. Amen.
Move on. We're wasting time, Daniel.
No, I'm with you.
Move on.
The
I
one
think we
issue.
should do whatever we gotta do
Yeah.
to be able to enforce this. However, I hate that we have to implement new policy, new law, when that truck driver stops our employee and threatens him and wants to fight. I can promise you, there's not one log truck going down the road that is not breaking the law with his lights working or whatever. And I mean, I don't want to make that our attack, but on a case-by-case basis, you can walk around a log truck and you can keep him off our road. Because none of them
Yeah, he's
lights work.
violating everything.
None of them's blinkers work. They don't even have them. They're drug off. I say none of them. I don't mean none of them. Let me correct that. There are some.
There are only one or two we have situations.
Right, we
with.
have one
Right.
every 6 months
Right.
that does this.
It's very frustrating to have to
Yeah,
legislate and
right.
regulate
Yeah.
for one or two actors. It's very frustrating. Unfortunately, we have our sheriff in a tight spot because we do not have an ordinance that I'm aware of. I don't know of one.
So why don't we just come up with an ordinance, if they get off our haul route, then we have the authority to give them a ticket?
That's kind of
That's
what
what
I'm
it's,
looking at.
that's what we're talking
All
about.
right.
It is, and
And if they would need
essentially,
to change it, come in and change their haul route. If they need to add, like I think the guy said he wanted to add, I don't know,
But I
Mount
think
Frank Farm
though-
Road or something.
I mean, there's no way our deputies are gonna know the haul routes. Probably
No.
the road department would have to
That's
notify.
got to simply do that. And
Sheriff's
look, hardly
office,
ever hear of it. Hardly ever hear a problem.
right. So
We're
anecdotally,
already addressing the fact that mud comes to the road. They already tend to that. We can make them clean that up.
How?
Ain't that right?
How?
Huh?
How can we really make them? I mean, we can ask them to.
I mean, that's, I mean.
But they
To be
use-
honest with you, I've been running the bluff on this deal, the whole deal.
yeah.
And yesterday one called my bluff on it. And I promise y'all, that's the second time one's called my bluff, probably gonna be a third.
All right, well, just like the mud.
We
the
don't
mud in
need
the
our road
road.
department guy in the hospital.
Mud in the road.
Look, how we got to this point though originally was the guy. Hey, look,
Cheap labor, yeah.
Well, see, what helped us last time when Scott May called her bluff, he did it to Slay, so we got some paperwork at that point. You know? Mike didn't have his pen.
Jumping past the orders, what I'll probably do is pick 2 or 3 daytime deputies that are gonna be working with, and make sure we get with Craig and Paul, have a little class on exactly how to word the affidavit, everything like that.
Yeah.
And we have a problem, we send that deputy to go.
I mean, I really don't want to write them a ticket. I just want that option.
Well, this guy needs a ticket.
No, this guy does. No, I agree.
Yeah.
And the guy that won't clean the mud out of the road leaves them big boulders up in the road that people can't even get around in the car. He needs, it needs to be something we can pull his permit till he cleans that road.
What I've been doing on that, Jared, I mean, if they mud the road, I mean, you can look back, I mean, I send them a bill for it.
Right.
I mean, whatever my crew go out there and do, I send them a bill. I flag the logging permit. If he comes back in, he ain't paid his bill, he's not getting a permit. But right now, I don't think we've got nothing to say he can't log and, I mean, whether he got a permit or not. I mean,
Okay, what about this? If when he gets that, permit, in there, if it's listed, like some of them have to some of them throw a log or two in the ditch so they can get in and out. Well, afterwards, he's gonna have to clean that out, open the ditch back up, and that has to be cleaned, otherwise it'll be a fine put on him. It'll be something, or would he put up something like a deposit prior to? Something to make them.
In our permit, we have language that allows for a haul bond. I don't know that Mike frequently uses
I'm not
that,
getting
but
into that.
it's in
Can
there.
I, 6 months ago, when we started the development ordinance, we had a big discussion, and we decided at that point in time, let's separate the two. Let's do the development first, then let's do the haul bonds, the truckers, the dump trucks, and all that. So I think we're at that point now, that we've taken care of the subdivision ordinance. Now we're at that point now to look at dump trucks and tractor trailer, logging trucks, and coming up with something. So why don't we give you the directive, start working with Mike, come up with something, kind of what the points that Jared has on those things, and let's start a framework. And let's kind of like we did with the subdivision ordinance. Let's put something out there, and let's bring the loggers and the foresters in here and say, okay, this is what we're getting ready to do. Because I think it's something we do need to address, as opposed to a Band-Aid approach, reactionary to what we did with Scott May and that particular development. This is more of a comprehensive. We got a lot more trees out there. We got vacant lots. So we
Well, all that's fine, but until then,
You were talking about, that's a 6-month process Bob's talking about.
yeah, until then, something to do with our otherwise, there's no need in them coming in permitting, or no need us even checking them.
Yeah.
There's really nothing,
no
no haul route, nothing.
If I could just suggest that, and I'm happy to do whatever you guys want me to do, a comprehensive ordinance that addresses more than just what we're thinking about or talking about today. But my observation over 10 years of doing this is that we have some fairly defined problems. It relates mostly to tearing up the entry and exit from the haul site. That's the biggest issue that we face. They tear that part of the road up, just getting in and out, and then driving on roads with a heavy load where we know on the front end that won't work, and telling them, don't do that. So those are the two primary issues that we have. We don't have issues of safety beyond that. Those are the two big issues that our road department deals with. So with those being the primary drivers behind this discussion, I don't know that we need to spend 6 months on a comprehensive document when we can probably have something back in front of you by the middle of next month to look at that would address those two primary issues. I think the sheriff's just looking for something official that has the force and weight of the law that he can then enforce by way of an affidavit in justice court.
Did this guy have a good CDL? Did we look? I mean, do we know? Was it?
I didn't check his license.
Well, I know you did.
I don't think
But
I mean, I come back in yesterday and filled out 2 more permits. I hadn't approved them yet, wasn't gonna approve it until we got through the board meeting today.
What roads are they on?
Now he's all of a sudden wanting to go down Mountain Creek Road, and then that's road he's been traveling without a permit. And then he wants to go all the way to Greenfield over here to the woodyard there, Star Brandon, like 468 Greenfield Station.
Well, you can't, that's a, you can't do, 468
I know
state.
we can't do nothing on 468.
Actually, I don't know, it really count on West Mountain Creek, because it's state aid, isn't that right? East Mountain Creek, East Mountain Creek. Yeah, I mean, he can travel that one.
What you want, Craig, is for us to go ahead and set some.
Really, this is just discussion.
Yeah, I just brought it up for discussion, I don't know.
I just think the solution.
I think he needs to be, that's what you're saying, something we can decide about for the next 2 weeks. Come up with some penalties, some fines, to give the sheriff some opportunities to us to enforce, so in case this problem pops up, and we can always come back and revisit down the road and tweak once we've had an opportunity.
And I guess that's what Slade was saying on the front
I'm in
side. You
favor
have
of
that
doing
there
that.
with the overlay district. All you gotta do is expand the same ordinance you got on a case by
He is
case
still
basis.
tiling his little ordinance.
Hey,
Let's
to
just
go
make
to
this
go
That
countywide.
was a little tough on-
But if you had the same thing in your
That's a
spot,
little tough down in rural community.
hey, I won't vote for it. I'm just saying.
No, I'm just saying
I mean,
that, really, I mean, it's a little hard to go down that.
I think we can solve it.
Road.
And I just want y'all to be aware of, it's not uncommon for us to get the log truck on the off-right. Most of the time.
So if it's one,
most of the
but
time
if
you
it's
go up to them, you talk to them,
25.
You'll correct it for a day or two, sometimes the next day they right back doing it again, you know. But this guy, from the day one we have called him, has been a horse of ass.
I can't believe you said that.
That was an offense to horses,
We're using
unfortunately.
My horses take offense to that.
I'm in favor of you coming up with some
Yeah.
penalties for about the next
I
meeting, in the
think
middle of the month, that we can
This-
implement, go ahead and vote. I mean, and it can be it's just, I agree. I mean, I see what you're saying, but I think the sheriff needs some options
Right.
there in case you get up to somebody who wants to be
Right.
a horse's
Right.
rear end about how to handle somebody out of county. He may not really appreciate where he needs to be, but we give him a ticket, he'll know next time.
I don't think you'll have any more problems,
That's
they
right.
know it's
That's
important.
right. But the sheriff's got to be able to say, hey, the deputy can do this in case this happens again.
There you
go.
He's got that leverage.
That's right.
You know, right now, he can't do anything, right?
That's
I mean, so.
Yeah, so I really do appreciate the fact, though, the sheriff was careful about this. There would be nothing worse for us, unfortunately, that if a deputy went down there and started issuing tickets, and we find out after the fact up at Justice Court that those are not valid.
They're gonna laugh at us, yeah. Oh, no,
They're not
I
valid.
agree.
So the word would get back around, unfortunately. If that was the only citation that could be issued, it was related to that particular permit policy and not something else, like Steve was mentioning. I mean, the guy's got a standard traffic violation. That's obviously that's going to be enforceable. That's already in statute. Absolutely. So if they're off the route, that's what I want. I want the deputy to be able to go to the guy and say, "You realize you're off the route?" Before he ever sees anything else related to the truck, you're off the route.
Let me see your license. Oh, my
Yeah,
goodness, you don't have a
absolutely. Then
license.
it goes from there. Right now,
Or without an application, without a permit. If he doesn't have a permit, too, there needs to be a penalty for that. If he gets caught with logs on his truck,
Right.
and he doesn't have a permit in his
Right.
truck, now the sheriff has the right to write that ticket.
that's an
Or
excellent
warn him
point.
that he needs to get
And-
it before he
and-
more haul, something, just something.
Right now, that's the kind of language that we would need in the ordinance that we don't now have in our permitting, which is some sort of identification, some sort of placard that would indicate that this particular job has already been permitted. I think, and Mike and I have talked about this, that having a policy in place or set up so that whatever the haul site is, at that location, there is some sort of indication this is a permitted logging activity, would probably be good. It'd help our road department guys to be able to just drive by and see, okay, that guy is operating under a permit. And then requiring the individual trucks to have copies of a permit with them in the truck. Doing that helps our enforcers be able to know what's going on and whether or not something's legitimate. You know, a logger could be logging and say, I'm hauling out of site whatever that's got a permit.
But we're not sitting here saying either that the sheriff gets to pull over every log truck out.
No, this is just the
Make that
situations
clear,
that,
you know,
No,
just
it's
when
just-
situations like happened yesterday.
Right.
Get a complaint from him, then we'll go.
Yeah.
yesterday is a clear example, the guy
He called and told
wants
me
to
about
fight,
it,
yeah. Okay, all right, that's all.
I don't think that's 6 months. I think we can get that done.
Think you
Okay.
can do that in 2 weeks?
All right. Anything else additional
A lot of
business?
logging.
Jay?
We I guess we all got an email this week from the guy group wanting to come in and do online auction bidding.
I think you handled it very nicely.
Oh, I responded
I
to
did
everybody.
like your
Yeah,
response.
you did. You had to talk to everybody.
Well,
Yeah.
I, where are we at on this?
We've gotten about 4 companies that, that's all that do it. We've probably got all of them that want to come in and do something. I'd like to wait just a little while and see what happens. We're going to do hopefully all of our bidding, get it done in December. That's going to carry us for,
So are we gonna do a whole year now?
Mike, were we going to do a year on some of those bids or just 6 months?
On which one,
On just some of the ones we're getting in December before the new law takes effect in
it all
January?
be, we're doing everything for a year.
For a year, in hopes that.
That they'll change the law.
We'll
We'll be
reverse it,
through
at
it.
least
Right.
change it to a
Right.
shall to a may.
So
after
if,
the first of the year,
alright, so we're basically gonna put all our hopes on the legislature then? Because they put in, you know, we got this technicalities, and it said that we could write to some department and,
right,
get around it.
I'll just tell you right now,
yeah, that's
don't
not,
waste your
don't
ink.
waste your ink,
Okay.
yeah, that's
All
what
right.
we've been told. on
Okay.
that.
Alright,
So,
It is gonna run our price probably up just a little bit, you know, going out a year, Judge, because of oil, you know, different things.
yeah, they gotta cover their
you
costs,
can
yeah.
consider too, the time issue and the fact that we have to hire somebody and all that, it might.
But it could lower the cost. If oil went sky high
Yeah, we don't.
and we had a year contract, we would be in, we'd,
It can work in favor both ways.
yeah.
Bridget has started a folder, they've all contacted her, and she started a folder, so if nothing changes, we can get them in here or do an RFP and let them all do a presentation.
So we basically at that point have to select which auction company we're gonna allow to do it. Gosh, man, we were asleep at the, we wasn't asleep at the wheel.
No, it.
I don't think anybody was.
Not-
I'm pretty sure this was-
I don't know,
What's the-
man. I
what-
can't
what
imagine
triggered it?
anybody
The
in the
Mike Epstein?
building industry, the asphalt
That-
industry.
that what
That's
triggered
what
the-
they
No,
said.
they're not.
Well,
They're not.
we have
I'm
been
talking
told
about
at several
legislature.
meetings
No, it
that
slipped through it.
Thought it was only going to.
They didn't see it coming, Jay.
State
Oh.
agencies
I don't
that
know,
we're gonna
man.
have to do. So when it ended up,
gonna
is
be
everybody, the only
pain.
exception are municipalities below 20,000, you know,
And people to get a special exception.
right.
You know, little Tate needs our support coming up.
All right, any other additional business?
There is need for executive session, please.
Okay.
Personnel.
Motion to entertain the need for executive
I
session.
make a motion to discuss the need to go into executive session.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Bishop, second by Mr. Morrow. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed with a like sign. All right.
Hey, Craig. Boy,
There
after
we
you
are.
go make your
Executive
announcement.
session.
Hey, Laura, we had a street light or a turn signal that we want to buy.
Yeah.
And it's on state contract. Can we go ahead and do it in this year if Mike needs to spend it out of his budget, or?
There's
we-
no way to get it paid for. I mean, I don't
Okay.
see any way to
All
get
right.
the receiving invoice and everything done by tomorrow.
Okay, all right. So it won't be this year, man.
No, it don't matter, I mean, I just need.
Yeah, well, just get it put on the agenda.
What red light? Where are you putting the red light?
No, it's already a red light. We're gonna put a turn signal there. It's like $8,000. But there was some question about the installation and all that.
Why does she walk off and one of her primary jobs is to make sure that blasted red light's turned off?
I don't know.
We're not in executive session yet.
Why can't I just reach back here and push it?
We just put it up on your desk.
know?
We
Because
turn
you've
it
been
off.
pushing it on and off.
Exactly. Hello? Yeah. Sure.
All right, I make a motion to go into executive session to discuss personnel.
Motion by Mr. Bishop into executive session.
Second.
Second by Mr. Gaines. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are in executive
Good
session.
job, man.